Ted Bundy is a name that sends chills down the spine. Known for his charismatic charm and brutal murders, Bundy has become one of America's most infamous serial killers. His crimes spanned multiple states and left a trail of devastation in their wake. Bundy's infamy is not just due to the number of victims but also the manner in which he committed his crimes. He lured young women with his good looks and seemingly harmless demeanor, only to then unleash unimaginable violence upon them. The story of Ted Bundy is a grim reminder of the evil that can lurk behind a charming smile. Understanding Ted Bundy's crimes requires more than just a recounting of events. It demands an exploration of the man himself. Who was he before he became a monster? What drove him to commit such atrocities? By delving into his past and examining his psychological profile, we can begin to piece together the puzzle of his twisted mind. Ted Bundy was born Theodore Robert Cowell on November 24, 1946 in Burlington, Vermont. His early life was marked by confusion and secrecy as he was raised by his grandparents, believing they were his parents and that his mother was his sister. This deceptive family dynamic may have played a role in shaping his troubled psyche. From a young age, Bundy exhibited signs of being different, though these signs were often subtle and easily overlooked. As a child, Bundy was described as intelligent but socially awkward. He had difficulty forming relationships and often felt like an outsider. Despite these challenges, Bundy managed to excel academically, which only helped him mask his darker inclinations. Bundy's early encounters with the law were minor but telling. He was arrested for petty theft and other misdemeanors, hinting at a rebellious streak. It wasn't until his college years that Bundy's darker impulses began to surface more clearly. His fascination with violent pornography and his growing need for control and dominance over others were early indicators of the path he would ultimately take. Ted Bundy's criminal career began in the early 1970s. His first confirmed murders were in 1974, but he may have started in 1969. Bundy's method was cunning and brutal. He approached victims in public, feigning injury or pretending to be an authority figure. Once in a vulnerable position, he would overpower them. His first known victims were young women from college campuses in the Pacific Northwest. He lured them to secluded areas to assault and murder them. The disappearances baffled authorities, with few clues left behind. Bundy's meticulous planning and charming demeanor helped him evade capture. As his confidence grew, so did the brazenness of his crimes. He began committing murders across state lines, complicating law enforcement efforts. Ted Bundy's victims were predominantly young women, typically between the ages of 18 and 25. They were often college students described as attractive and intelligent. Bundy had a specific type: long-haired brunettes parted in the middle, a chilling detail that many believe was influenced by his first serious girlfriend who fit this description. His victims were chosen with precision, and his method of luring them was both manipulative and effective. Bundy's modus operandi involved a combination of charm and deceit. He would often feign injury, using crutches or a cast to appear vulnerable and in need of assistance. Once a woman offered to help, he would lead her to a secluded area where he could overpower her. In other instances, he posed as a law enforcement officer, using a fake badge to gain their trust. Once Bundy had his victims in a secluded location, his brutality knew no bounds. He would often bludgeon them into unconsciousness before sexually assaulting and strangling them. Bundy's ability to switch from charming to monstrous in an instant made him a particularly terrifying predator. As Ted Bundy's confidence grew, so did the frequency and boldness of his crimes. By 1974, the rate at which young women were disappearing was alarming. Bundy escalated his activities, sometimes abducting multiple victims within a short period. In July 1974, at Lake Sammamish State Park, Bundy abducted 2 women in broad daylight. Janice Ott and Denise Naslund were taken within hours of each other. Witnesses saw a man with his arm in a sling, asking for help with his sailboat. Bundy's crimes continued to escalate as he moved across the country. The turning point came in August 1975, when he was pulled over by police in Utah. The arrest of Ted Bundy in August 1975 was a significant turning point in the investigation. The items found in his car were incriminating, but they were not enough to keep him behind bars for long. Bundy was initially charged with the kidnapping of Carol Duranch, a young woman who had managed to escape his clutches. Her testimony was crucial in securing a conviction, and Bundy was sentenced to prison time. While awaiting trial for murder charges in Colorado, Bundy managed to escape from custody twice. The first escape occurred in June 1977, when he jumped out of a courthouse window. He was recaptured after a week, but this escape demonstrated his resourcefulness and determination. The second escape, in December 1977, was even more audacious. Bundy managed to lose weight, squeeze through a small hole in the ceiling of his cell, and walk out of the jail disguised as a police officer. This escape allowed him to flee to Florida, where he would commit his final and most infamous crimes. In Florida, Bundy resumed his killing spree with a vengeance. Bundy's final capture came on February 15, 1978, when he was pulled over by police in Pensacola, Florida. Ted Bundy's trials were highly publicized events, capturing the attention of the nation. The first trial, held in 1979 for the Chi Omega murders, was notable for Bundy's decision to represent himself. His background in law and his charismatic personality made for a dramatic courtroom spectacle. Despite his efforts to charm the jury and discredit the evidence, Bundy was found guilty and sentenced to death. The second trial, held in 1980 for the murder of Kimberly Leach, was equally dramatic. Bundy again chose to represent himself, but this time, his demeanor was more erratic. The evidence against him was overwhelming, including eyewitness accounts and physical evidence linking him to the crime. The jury took less than 7 hours to convict him, and he was once again sentenced to death. Bundy's time on death row was marked by numerous appeals and attempts to delay his execution. Despite these efforts, the courts upheld his convictions, and his execution date was set. On January 24, 1989, Ted Bundy was executed in the electric chair at Florida State Prison. His death marked the end of one of the most notorious criminal careers in American history. Understanding Ted Bundy's psychology is essential to comprehending the full extent of his crimes. Bundy was diagnosed with several psychological disorders, including antisocial personality disorder and narcissistic personality disorder. These diagnoses helped explain his lack of empathy, his manipulative behavior, and his inflated sense of self-worth. Bundy's ability to charm and deceive those around him was a hallmark of his personality disorders, making him a particularly dangerous individual. Interviews with Bundy, both before and after his capture, reveal a complex and deeply disturbed mind. He often spoke of his crimes in a detached manner, showing little to no remorse for his actions. In some interviews, Bundy attempted to rationalize his behavior, blaming external factors such as pornography and a troubled childhood. Bundy's interactions with psychologists and criminologists provided valuable insights into his motivations. He described a compulsion to kill that he found impossible to resist, likening it to an addiction. This compulsion was driven by a need for power and control, as well as a deep-seated rage against women. The crimes of Ted Bundy had a profound impact on society. Fear gripped communities, urging young women to take extra precautions. The brutality of Bundy's actions left a lasting scar on the national psyche. His ability to blend in shattered the illusion of safety. Bundy's crimes significantly impacted law enforcement practices, highlighting the need for better communication and coordination. This led to more sophisticated investigative techniques and databases. Bundy's case prompted new strategies to combat serial crime. The media played a crucial role in shaping public perception. Extensive coverage made him a household name. The media's fascination contributed to the mythologizing of his crimes. The legacy of his crimes is marked by enduring grief and lessons learned. The media coverage of Ted Bundy's crimes and trials was extensive and often sensational. Newspapers, television networks, and magazines competed for the latest scoop on Bundy's activities, turning his story into a national spectacle. This intense media focus had a significant impact on public perception, shaping how people viewed Bundy and his crimes. The fascination with his case was fueled by the contrast between his outward charm and his horrific actions, making him a subject of both fear and intrigue. The media's portrayal of Bundy as a charming yet deadly predator captivated the public's imagination. This coverage ensured that Bundy's name would be remembered long after his death.